I have learnt several new techniques from completing my preliminary task that has led me to creating the best attempt of an opening sequence to an independent film that I could possibly do. The biggest skills I learnt was becoming knowledgeable of the 4 continuity editing techniques and how they can set a scene. Match on action, eyeline match, the 180-degree line and shot reverse shot can all help an audience to understand part of the storyline more visually. I learnt what each technique did, why, and how it was used before incorporating them into my preliminary task. The first technique I used in my preliminary task is shot reverse shot. This shows the audience 2 or more characters having a conversation with each other. I then went on to use the technique for my opening sequence, showing the bullies and Tom having a confrontation. However, I had to cut it out due to time restrictions. Match on action is used to link film editing between 2 different objects showing a movement of action. I used this several times in my preliminary task, especially to show characters opening doors. My editing for these were not particularly successful. The cuts were either too quick between each shot, or the pace of them did not match up well. I learnt from this for my finished product when I edited the match on action of the beer can being thrown and then hitting the ground. I made sure that there was an action of the character throwing it and cutting it whilst it was in mid-air, and that the following shot was of the beer can falling to the ground at the same pace, so that it visually made sense by showing this action. Eyeline match was the next continuity technique I used in my preliminary task, which is used to show the audience what a character is looking at. This was a useful technique to use, as I used it in Tom's confrontation scene with the bullies to show what he was looking at. I have learned that this is important so that the audience are able to relate with what the character are looking at. And finally, the last continuity editing technique I used was the 180-degree line. Compared to using it in the preliminary task to then using it in my final product, I have learnt that I had to make it more obvious that I was cutting into the line by starting the shot on a side profile of a character and filming right round them to their other side of their other profile, as opposed to starting the shot like a shot reverse shot and then turning it and showing it like a panning shot, which is what I did in my preliminary task. In terms of editing my opening sequence and Final Cut Express, I made sure that the cuts between shots were not too fast-paced or comical. In order to suit my chosen genre, I ensured each shot was a decent length and that the titles appeared on and off the screen fairly slowly to fit the social realism genre. Continuity editing techniques help to create a variation of shot types. Nevertheless, I made sure that I had various camera movement, such as panning. I learnt that using a variety makes it more visually interesting for the audience to watch. Throughout this project, I have learnt that the key to being successful when making a film production is majorly to do with good editing. Editing skills can make poor footage into an innovative film.